Hey, everybody. My name is Erik Hanchett, and this is Serverless Office Hours. Uh, Thanks for everyone joining. I see, some people are coming in to the chat right now. That's awesome. If you don't know, I am not the Erik that you're used to. I am another Erik. So I am here in lieu of our two co-hosts that you see more often, Julian and Erik Johnson. So I am taking their place today. Erik he's probably somewhere around the world. He's always traveling. And Julian is also busy as well. I think he's at an on-site. So you have me today. I see Erie Edits. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. This is going to be fun because I'm going to essentially have you guys be the co-hosts today. And so at any time, feel free to stop me, ask me any questions, and yeah, I'll be here to answer it. Today we're going to talk about strands, and I'm a huge TypeScript fan. Cool, Oliver. I am happy to hear that. I'm excited as well. I'm a huge TypeScript front end, full stack fan, JavaScript fan. So this will be fun. I created a couple of blog posts and videos recently using Strands Agents and the new TypeScript version that just went into 1.0 on the TypeScript version. If you've been following Strands for a while, the Python version has been out for a while. The Strands was in different releases, but now that is completely out as well. So we're going to be looking at it in the TypeScript side. Hey, Victor, good to see you, Victor. Cool. This is my office, by the way. This is where I usually stream from. You can always see my name right here. Here's a couple of books I've written. So yeah, this is perfect here. And I'm a little messy over here, but don't look at that. That's just a jacket that I have. Let me share my screen before we get in too far here. Joseph, good to see you, Joseph. Amazing to see you online here. If you don't know, I'm a senior developer advocate, so I get to travel a lot, and I will be at the AWS Summit Los Angeles. So if you are in the LA area, hit me up. I am on LinkedIn at Erik Hanchett. You can always add me there on LinkedIn. Just search for me, Erik Hanchett. But I will be at the AWS Summit Los Angeles. If you come to the booth, we have a lot of really fun, interesting things. We have an agent contest. I can't give away too much. Awesome. Hey, greetings, Bunchar. Good to see you too. Lalitkal, if I'm pronouncing it right. Yeah, thanks for hello. So I will be at the AWS Summit. We're going to have a booth there, and we're giving away lots of things. We're going to have a little agent contest. It's going to be super fun. So if you are in the Los Angeles area tomorrow, check it out. And I'd love to just talk about serverless with people too. And Kira, I've been talking a lot about. Oh, hello from Jordan. Yeah, let me know in the comments, in the chat, where you are you coming from? I see Jordan. That's awesome. Let me show you a couple of more things. Denver Dev Day. So I know I saw Jordan here. I'm not going to be over that area, but I will be in Denver at the end of the month for Denver Dev Day. If you don't know, this is a free conference they have in the Denver area. It's at the Red Rocks Community College. I'll be giving 2 talks, one on spec-driven development using Kiro, and another talk, I think it's going to be on Lambda. So I'm excited. So if you are in the Denver area, once again, check this out. I think some of these might be recorded too, which will be cool. I have a question. Oh, hello from Dublin. Awesome. Love that. Can you talk a little bit about agent core payments? Let's hold the agent core payment stuff till the end. I don't know. I don't think I have much information to talk about that right now, but I'll get back to you on that one. Oh, Oliver, logging in from, that's awesome, HQ2. Hey, just outside. Hey, Lewis, I see you're just outside Denver. Come to Denver Dev Day. It's on Saturday. So I'll be there giving talks. They have a lot of just free, fun community things there for the Denver community. I definitely don't expect anyone to take a flight, but hopefully we'll have some of these talks online too for some of these things. I will also be at Commit Your Code, which will be in Plano, Texas, at the Capital One campus. It's September 3rd and 4th. I'll just give a shout out here. It's always fun to talk about places I'll be at. This is in September. This is a really neat conference. It's by the way, I love these conferences where all the money goes to charity. So this is something that they don't, it's not a for-profit conference. It all goes to charity, and I'll be giving a talk there. I think, hey, lead engineers from Amazon, Microsoft, they have everybody. I think it's on Spectre in development as well. So I'm looking forward to this conference. Shout out. In fact, if you look really closely in some of these pictures, you can see me from last year when I was there. You can look at the one. Yeah, you just have to look real quickly. But this is a really fun conference. It's only like $40 ticket. And if you have like a hardship or something, you can probably even get in for free. Yeah, so Danny Thompson puts this together every year. It's a little ways away. First, I also want to talk about Agent Toolkit for AWS. I know in the chat. Oh, hello. Hola. Silvestre. Welcome. I was going to say, for those of you joining a little bit late, I'm running solo today. I am not the Erik that you know, Erik Johnson, who's normally on here. I'm Erik Hanchett, but I am also a senior developer advocate. Fortunately, Erik and Julian are super busy today, so I'm taking over a solo. So everybody in the chat, you guys are my co-hosts today. So feel free to chat and let me know what's happening. I was going to say, let me know in the chat if you've tried Agent Toolkit for AWS. It's a really neat new way to help AI coding agents build, deploy, and manage applications on AWS. If you look at it, it's basically gives you all the skills that you want from AWS, and you can put it in your coding agent. So I'll make it a little bigger. So it has an AWS MCP server. It has the agent skills, plugins, rules files, and it's just really easy to install. So this is the one place where if you're using a coding agent that you can just grab everything you need to use. Because I don't know about you, every time I'm looking at IAM roles, I always have to be very careful in how I put them together. Or if I'm like creating a new S3 bucket or EC2 instance. I know some of you in the chat right now are like, oh yeah, I memorized, I can just use the CLI in 10 seconds, get all these provisioned and up and running. Or of course I use SAM or CDK. But I really liked having this as an extra layer. So when I'm using Cloud Code, Cursor, or Curo, which we're going to see a little bit later, I can use this to make sure I have my step, that everything works correctly. So I think what I'm going to do, yep, Erik replacing Erik, that's the normal mate. Yep, Erik Johnson with a C. Yeah, I think he spells his name wrong. I think with a K is the right way. I don't know. Let me know if you agree. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna do a live demo. I'm hoping the demo gods are good today, and then I'm gonna install this agent toolkit for AWS. But first, I know I heard a couple people say the name of this stream is Build Agents with TypeScript and Strands Agents, and I mentioned that at the beginning. So let's take a look at that. Let's see here. So, hey, there's me looking very surprised in this screenshot. If you don't know, let me see here. Can I share this? Let me see. Oh, you know, I'm not connected to the chat. Let me see if I can share this or have someone share it. So this is the, oh, here, we got it. Okay, so the hopefully that'll get shared out here in a second, but this is a video I did, just came out a couple of days ago, and I talk about Strands Agents, a little bit of Agent Core, and some things that I feel like are best practices, because there's so many different ways of creating agents nowadays. I see a few issues that people are having, and I think there's ways that you can create agents ready for production, so to speak. Okay, great. It's on the channel right there. Also, t equals, you can start at 4 seconds if you want to skip the first 4 seconds there. But what I do in this video is I show you like 5 things that I think are important. First is streaming tool of call events, which are ways that when you're using chat, when you're using like creating a chat assistant, that you can have certain indications show up in your chat window. In this case, and I'll show you here in a live demo in a moment, but I can be like, what are our recent orders? And then you have a little thing that says looking up your orders. And then you can have something that says like it called these tools. So it just gives you a lot more information to the end user, instead of just having either not doing anything, which is probably the worst user experience, or you just have a rotating dial, or something that just indicates that it's loading, like a loading indicator, which I feel like is a little lazy when there's just so many things you can actually grab out of the SDK, in this case, Strands Agents, to show a little bit more information to the user what's happening. And so there's a lot of hooks. So in this video, I tell you, okay, here are all the different hooks for it. And then in the second part, in the second one, I look at separating the auth layers. Who's seen diagrams like this? I know it's probably a little bit hard to see on the screen. Is that a little easier? You guys can see it a little easier probably. So like when we talk directly to like our agent core runtime, so this is agent core runtime would be a place where we host our agents. What kind of security and what kind of best practices that do we need to have this all work correctly together? Because when you start playing around with agents at first, you may be tempted to have your front end just call agent core runtime directly. But you can actually, that's not usually the best way to do it, because you want to protect yourself against SQL injections, cross-site scripting, bad bots, rate limitings. So you can add in a Lambda auth bridge here, an API gateway, a WAF, and then you can make sure that your JWT tokens, those JSON web tokens that you're using, aren't the same that talks to agent core runtime. So there's different patterns you can use to create these. Yes, I see a yes in the chat. I'd like to see that. So I kind of go into that specifically. Here is like the vulnerable setup I was talking about, where you have a React app, or just think of any sort of front-end app. It goes to the API gateway, and then it goes directly from there to agent core. So if you're using the same auth token between all 3 of these, someone could just bypass the API gateway directly if for some reason your agent core runtime endpoint got leaked, and go directly to agent core runtime. So if you want more levels of security, which I recommend, then you can have a Lambda auth bridge in the middle. You have an OAuth token that goes to your API gateway. Then your Lambda uses IM to agent core. So this just gives you another layer of protection. A couple of people have mentioned, well, aren't you having more hops here? So the latency is an issue. The latency, and when you're using large language models, as some of you are thinking probably right now, is the latency on the agent core on the large language model side, on the frontier side, because that's going to take lots of time, obviously, depending on what you're talking back and forth with it, while this is just milliseconds. So I talk a lot about that in this second part. And then the third part I talked about contracted databases, where you just want to be careful when you use tool uses. So we all remember the agent loop, right? Where we have a tool call, and then our tools, well, essentially our agent talks to tools. Our tools talk to external services. It gets information, goes back into the large language model, and it kind of sets this loop between all of them. Well, if you're setting up your own individual tools and you're just putting raw SQL data right into the tool call, then you're going to be subject to SQL injection, data exfiltration, tenant bleeding. So you really need to put constraints around your tool usage. So these are some of the things that you need to think about when you're creating it. wonder if I should turn off the closed caption so you can see better. There we go. And then here is like my optimal setup where I'm using an enum here where I'm checking 3 choices. Like it has to be pending, shipped, or delivered. And this, by the way, is Strands Agents TypeScript. This is how you do it. If you're using Python, it probably looks similar. But I can define an input schema that has the exact things that we're looking for. We can put limits on it. We can grab the user ID. It's set from the JWT, so it can't be like hallucinated. And then we put in a very specific user query that NoSQL injection can be possible. Anybody deal with SQL injection? Let me know if that's something that's top of mind for you when you go in. And then I think this is kind of obvious, a little more obvious, but there's this idea of and budget that you need to keep in mind for. And I love these images that I created for this. I created it myself. I'm really happy. Well, I used a couple of tools to help create it. One called Motion Canvas and Hyperframes. But I think this makes it so much more easier to understand when you're teaching these large concepts. Anyways, so here are like some guardrails on your agents. And with Strands Agent, you have different hooks that you can stop destructive operations on these hooks. So if you have a tool call going somewhere, you can make sure that it can't accidentally delete things. You can have a tool count budget counter, so that way it doesn't keep going in circles. If you've used other SDKs, they have this. Some of them have different ways to do this, but you obviously don't want your tool to just keep calling over and over again and get stuck in that loop. Little Bobby Tables is worried. And then cut off at 20 calls. So yeah, so you can have this kind of tool call use to make sure that you're not in this infinite loop for guardrails. And then here's me looking like I'm very serious talking to you. And then this is one I want to show you. I have a demo for this, and I have some code. It's been more exciting than watching this video, where this is just a really simple thing you can do when you're working with agents, is you can do this route by query complexity. Now, this is a very simple use case where we're just looking for text in like a chatbot. We're looking for individual text, and then we route things to different models based on the text in the query. You probably use regex for this to finding the text a little bit easier. But you can just imagine that it can become so expensive to always use your most expensive frontier model. And just imagine how many tokens it's going to use if you use that for every single call when you're building agents. And so you really want to keep in mind the cost of it all. There's actually a really good blog post, maybe I'll show it afterwards, that kind of illustrates what could be the worst case scenario. There is, let me see, do I have it here? Let me see, I'm looking on my other screen for a second. Here, yeah, I have it. I'll bring it up on the screen in a second. But there is, you just have to be very careful with your token usage. In this case, you can see this code, it just swaps it out. No other code is needed. And then finally, observability. This is really important. There's so many tools that you can take. With Strands Agents, you have a lot of flexibility with your observability, and you can then funnel that into either CloudWatch, or you can funnel it into Agent Core Runtime, has its own observability dashboard, or you can use something like LaneGraph. There's a whole lot of options, but you can turn it on essentially in Strands Agents to get all this information that you wouldn't have otherwise. And so, for example, you can look at the reasoning cycles, like how often, how many times it took to reason something. So if you find out that this reason cycle is high, your agent is looping too much, and it's probably using too much inference. or you can look at the tool duration. So if it's taking like 50 seconds, then maybe you have it connecting to too many tools and it's getting confused and it's not specific enough. And then, of course, what we all probably care about as business owners and developers is like, what are our token usage? And you can grab that directly out of it. So it has a lot of great observability information for you. And you can get that basically per tool stats. So every time it calls a different tool. And then I kind of added this in here, and I can show you a demo of this, is the SDK telemetry and how you just turn it on. So there's this setup tracer in the Strands Agent SDK telemetry, and you can turn that on, and then you set the exporters up. And then you can have, it's basically an OTLP, which goes to CloudWatch. And here, and then I have a little bit of a conclusion where I just kind of go over all of it again. So that's a little bit of this video. Here is the blog post. I'll also put that if you guys are more in the line of, let me see if I can just, you know what, I'll just copy the whole one here. I'm going to put it in here. It's a very long link. This is to our Builder Center. And so if you are listening right now and you want to check this out, but you're not a big fan of videos, check out the very long URL there. That also has a campaign ID at the end of it. That's why it's a really long URL. It's just to help us track like who's clicking on it. So I wrote this all up and based on the video, so you can get a more of an idea of how this works. Oh yeah, and I wanted to show this. Can you see it? I think so. Inference theft. Here it is. So this, my coworker Morgan wrote this. Very interesting, and it goes along with what I was just talking about. Your AI endpoint is someone else's free model. It's kind of interesting because what could happen is if you are creating an agent and you don't have some of the safeguards I just mentioned, where you're having your WAF, you're separating your concerns, you're having different auth layers. People have in the past been able to steal people's inference. In other words, that's where you might see someone that you go to a chat bot online. I think this happened to a few of them out there, and you can be like, please. It might be a chatbot for a customer service agent for a fast food chain. And then you could be like, can you help me create a linked list? And then it'll spit out a bunch of code, which you think is kind of funny, but for everything that you put out there, those are tokens that are being stolen from you. So this article goes over a lot of different ways to mitigate that. I'll put this in the chat too. Let me see here, people. Yes. Yes, it'll be in the chat in a second. So this is kind of interesting. Like an attacker finds an AI endpoint exposed to the internet. They write the thin adapter that wraps your endpoint in a standard model API interface. They can sell access adapter at 5 to 10% of what the model provider charges. So Morgan did a great job of kind of taking a little bit more of this idea and going past it. So there's multiple layers like bot verification, guardrails that we just talked about, the cost-aware routing, which I just mentioned. You can have different routing based on what it is, and then you can do budget controls. So prompts are suggesting guardrails or architecture. So like there's the very simple things you can have. You can check prompts and there's guardrails in there. So if you mention certain keywords and prompts, that it could just kick it out. And you can kind of avoid prompt injection attempts. But the match the model of the need is kind of exactly what I showed you earlier in that video where I was using keywords and then it routed to different models. And then there's different types: intent-based routing, agent-based routing, budget controls. You can also set so if it goes past a certain amount, it will stop. and then observability. So a little bit, this is kind of similar to what I was talking to, but this is very focused on that inference. So I just want to give that a shout out because I think this is something that we're going to see more and more in the future, is people talking about this. Okay. Let's talk about Strands Agents. I've been kind of talking about it already for the last almost 30 minutes. Wow, time has flown. But this is what I've been really having fun with. If you don't know, Strands is our agent harness SDK for agents. You don't have to have Amazon Bedrock to use it. It works with OpenAI. It works with Anthropic's models. It's pretty wide open there. And we have a Python and a TypeScript SDK. So you can do either one here. I like TypeScript, so that's what I've been working on. You can use npm install. That's interesting. They have both installations for either when you click on it. So it has really good information how to get started. What I really like is if you're used to front-end development, it uses Zod, which I think is great. And you can even see here all the model providers that it supports: Google, Llama, like local providers, custom providers. Here's a quick start for TypeScript. Maybe we'll actually do something like this in a moment, but let me show you. This is an app that I created, and it's not running right now. So that's my desktop. Okay, here's the app. The code for this is in a GitHub repository. I will share it in chat. Does anybody want to see the code? You probably do. It's in this link here, source code. So I will pass that on. There's so many links today. If you thought like, wow, we don't have many links. We have many. Yeah, here's the link, sample TS Strands Agents tips. So this is the code. And what it has is I have two folders, this TS app Nuxt is probably pretty small, TS app Nuxt and an agent. And so I have a Nuxt, basically it's a Vue.js. And by the way, this is Kiro, my favorite agentic IDE. And I usually use Kiro CLI too. But the Nuxt is the front end kind of full stack app that handles the front end application. It's based off of Vue, kind of the analogous to Next has React or React has Next. So if you do npm run dev, here is running on localhost 3000. And then if we go to the agent, this agent folder here, I created snippets of, or basically I created TypeScript code for all these different scenarios I had in that blog post article. And so if we want to try it out, if I look, I added a nice package JSON. I would just edit it right before we got on. So I have this dev agent core start. Let's just run, let's go to the agent folder and we'll run npm run dev. So what this is, if we look at our index.ts file, all I'm doing is I'm creating this Express server. This is a local web server. And this local web server, let's see, oh, we got some comments. Yes, looks like everybody has those links. Here, this local web server is connecting up to a Anthropic model that's on Amazon Bedrock. And then I'm doing some fun things here where, well, first, like in this agents TS, I'm adding a telemetry. So now we can see telemetry output. If we use this trace console 1, then you'll see this telemetry output. And then it also has this chat endpoint. So my front end is connecting to this chat endpoint. It's using some session IDs. It's using agent core memory, which I created my own agent core memory. So this is a way I can have it have some long-term and short-term, basically long-term memory. So it remembers who I am, And this is just a proof of concept, but you can see how easy it is to add this file to your application. This is in the source code too, because this doesn't normally come with Strands Agents SDK for TypeScript yet. It might soon. So I just have a chat endpoint, and I wanted to show like a few of the things I showed on that video. So like the first thing I mentioned is like when you're chatting with something, you want a little bit of feedback. So I have different event types that I'm grabbing different text from. And then I have different hooks. So I have this before tool call event, this after tool call event, this agent result event. So I use these ifs and these events. That way I can display things on the screen. And if you want to see more, take a look at the code in the chat. And then I display it and also display any metrics. So I think since we have both of these running now, this should work. So if I come back up here to my local host and refresh it, here it is. So now I have this chat. It acts as if it's an order system. And these are all hard-coded into the app. So I'm not connecting to a database or anything. So if I click what are my recent orders, I see thinking. So it's thinking, looking up your orders. These are different steps. You see the orders, and then I get the cycles, the milliseconds, the tokens, and what tool call use it did. So these are all available for you in Strands to grab each one of these pieces of information, which are very helpful and very nice. I think if I had spent a little bit more time on this, I probably would have, right after it says thinking, it has this bubble that's just like almost filled. I probably would have like removed the bubble, but I think it just kind of gives you the idea of what it is. So kind of giving that nice user input, because we have all these hooks in Strands, it's really nice to have. So that's kind of the first thing I just wanted to show is here it is in place from that video of all the different tool calls and the different hooks that you can kind of set yourself into. And then the second thing I want to show is, if we go back to our package JSON, is let me show you the traces. So right now I'm just running the dev, which is running this TSX. By the way, these are just tools to help compile from TypeScript back to JavaScript. But let me try dev trace. So this will run the same command, but it'll run it with the tracing on. And you kind of get an idea what that looks like. So this is the agent here, npm run dev trace. Is that what it was? Dev trace, yes. So now the tracing's on. So if I come back over here, and I'll just refresh it, and I'll be like, let's ask the same question. What are my recent orders? And I look back at my chat here, and you can see here, it's having all these tracing is on for us. Oh, there's a question. You can use React Assistant UI that supports more friendly formatted results in the agent. Oh, that's a good tip. That I have to take a look at that. I haven't used React Assistant UI. That does sound interesting. Here is the trace from our observability trace, and it'll show the tool calls and everything inside here. So this is actually really nice too. You could turn this on when you're in production, and you need to, like, you can have these show up in CloudWatch and then look at what's happening. So you can see here, it tells me the attributes, the service name, the namespace, the instrument, trace ID, the spans, just a lot of information. You can even see the request model, the token usage, which is really important, the content. Now, this is probably a lot, but there is a lot of tools out there that can take this output and then this OTLP output, and then you can funnel it into a tool and have like a whole lane graph. Or if you're using Agent Core Runtime, they have a built-in observability dashboard. If anybody's used any of these tools, let me know in the chat, because there's a lot of them out there. But this is really nice. So you get all this output and all this information here. I also, just to show how it works, I have a command to run it on Agent Core port 8080. So if you wanted to, this is just running an Express service locally, but you can use this to run it into an Agent Core Runtime app. And the way that works is you have these specific ports that you have to have it. So like if I come back here, npm run dev Agent Core, is that what it was? Yeah, so now it's running on port 8080. You have to have a /ping. I think there's a thing in here. Yeah, so when you set up Agent Core Runtime like an Express server, as long as you have /ping and /invocations to port 8080, you can have this running. And then you could use something like our Agent Core CLI to deploy it, or you can create your own container and then deploy it as well into Agent Core runtime. So I just put that in there too. You can look at more details in the source code if you want to look more. There are a few other things that I thought was interesting here. We mentioned about this model, a way to do this model routing. So I created this example, model routing example. So this is a little bit more complicated than the code that you saw in the video and in the blog post. But what I wanted to do is just show like how you can kind of think about this. So I have a cheap model here, which is in this case Amazon Nova Micro. And then I have a new smart model, which is Sonnet 4.5, which honestly, this probably could be Sonnet, what's it, Opus 4.8 right now is one of the latest and greatest. But just for the sake of what it's doing, I put in a 4.5. So then I can give it heuristics and try to do model routing on it. And definitely for production, this is something you'd want to do. So in this case, I have a very simple like regex statement here. If it sees any of these keywords, then it's going to route to one model or the other. And then I have it just return this object here where it's like, is it a simple model, cheap or smart model? Is it, what's the model ID? And then the label. And then I have two different messages. And you could do this in production. You could have, as questions come in, you can add this type of guardrail. And so if I do, what is the price of the keyboard, it's probably going to route me to the simple model. While if I put compare the trade-offs between optimistic and pessimistic looking, it's going to see those keywords and then route me to the more expensive frontier model. And then I display it. So if I run that, npm run, it's going to be example routing. Here, we'll do this, npm run example routing. Here it is. So I'm asking you two questions. What is the price of keyboard? It went ahead and went to the Amazon. Now it's doing the more expensive model. So here it is. So I can do what is, man, this is long. So the cheap model, when I asked it, what is the price of keyboard? The price of keyboard varies widely, brand, features, and type. Check online retailer. So it's very simple. It's used a really cheap model. While the prompt here, compare the trade-offs between optimistic and pessimistic locking for high throughput orders, it then routed it to the Claude Sonnet 4.5 model, which is, as you can imagine, much more capable, but it's going to use more tokens and be more expensive. And then it gave a much more detailed output of the pros and cons. Although, to be fair, it was a more complicated question, but you have a lot of information here. It even has like implementation details. You can even kind of take a look even more. If I npm run, I think it's tracing. So we have a trace on this. I could do dev. Oh, you know what? I thought I had model routing tracing on, but I don't. If we wanted to, we could, right here, we could add tracing on and then actually see the token outputs of each and then compare it. Obviously, we'd have to then compare it to the price of the model, but we have that too. We don't have that, but that's one way you can also look at it. Oh, Mohammed has another comment. To be honest, using Agent Core is the recommended approach so that you can run it locally on default port 8080 and invoke it on passless invocations. Yes, I would. That's why I would highly recommend that. It's a good tip. Can you put that on the screen, the last comment? Yes, there it is. 100%. What else did I want to show today? I do have evals here. So another way you can kind of take a look at your agent, this is all in Strands Agents TypeScript, is I have this create agent here. By the way, this is a model. I have the system prompt that says, you're helpful customer support for an online store. By the way, I have the sliding windows conversation. So you can do nice things where you don't have the problem sometimes when you're talking to an agent back and forth is that the context fills up. So you can have a sliding window of conversation between it, which is really nice. And this evals part, what I'm trying to do is based on these inputs, I'm trying to see what the output is and what I expect it to be. So I'm taking a look at what I expect it to be and see if it all passes. So if I come back here and I run npm run eval, it's going to check the model ID, and then it's going to start running the tests. So like order lookup, no filter. So in that case, that's the first one in this list. So I'm getting what are my recent orders, and I'm expecting it to use the get user orders tool. So that worked. And then it's saying, okay, status, show me my shipped orders, and I expect it to use the get user orders. And that's based off this agent here. If we go to this create agent, we have all these tools, get user orders, get product info, create support ticket. So these are all the tools, and this is the fake database. It's just hard-coded in here of data. So it's kind of going through each one of these, and this is something I would highly recommend. There are, for those of you in the chat, you probably think there are frameworks that help you do evals. We have some built-in evals into some of our products and services, but essentially this is what a lot of it's doing. So the last one is, it does product search work, support, but out of scope, polite refusal. Expect after can't help, not found a response. So when it comes down here, it's doing this, what is the capital of France? It's expecting to see the text can't help, but it's saying something else. I'm curious what it's saying. So this one failed. It may have been saying something else, like I don't know, or it may have hallucinated. I don't know. So like this one, expected output not found. So we could do response to lowercase. I wonder, can we just console log that out? Console log. I don't know. Let's see if that works. So it's going to try again. In the meantime, I see another question. Is Agent Core's inference as performant as calling Bedrock directly, assuming it's the same model, or is this an added delay? No, it should be. So when you run Agent Core runtime, it's going to talk directly to Bedrock, so there shouldn't be a delay there. Now, in my examples, I added in a API gateway, I added in a Lambda, so there will be delays between all of those. The Agent Core runtime itself, no. Okay, the capital of France is Paris. Oh, so it looks like it did have. However, I should mention them. I'm primarily here to help with customer support for online store. I think things are looking at. So you can see here that we don't have the correct guardrails in place because they were able to ask a question completely out of context here. This, what is the capital of France? And it should have been able like, hey, I can't help you here. I'm a customer support bot. So this would be like one way you can figure out like, uh-oh, this is definitely open to inference. It's stealing inference in that case. That's a good question, though. We can even, I'm wondering if we should try this now. So if we go back to our app, we have this TypeScript, this agents toolkit for AWS. If we set this up, let's see what it says here for that question. So you can install it a few ways. I'm using Kira, so you can just install with this AWS MCP server if you don't already have it installed. So I'm going to add it here. So if I come back here to my MCPs, I'll go to Kira. And I have this so big you can't see it, but I can click here, this MCP servers. Oops. And then I come back here. Let's add this one in here. So now this is basically what I'm doing is I'm adding in this MCP server. It's trying to connect. So I have 11 tools here. And then it says, add the following MCP configuration, and then you can install the skills, then insta skills. So let's see what happens here. So I'm going to come here. Should I do it in the root? Let's do it in the root. So I'm going to just npx skills add, say yes here. And this will add the AWS skills directly into my app. And then I can choose which one I'm using. So in this case, well, I guess if I'm asking you questions on Agent Core, I'd want to install the Agent Core one, right? So amplify, CDK, Lambda, observability, transform, Lambda, RDS. There's so many in here. I haven't even checked to see if they have. I guess you could do Bedrock. I don't see Agent Core specifically. I know there's other like MCP servers and stuff for Agent Core. But if I can install this directly here. Let's not do that right this second, but that's how you do it. You would be able to add in any of those skills. Let's see here. Let's ask, using the AWS MCP server, does Agent Core runtime add any delay when calling Amazon Bedrock models? Let's see what Kiro tells us in here. I trust. So another thing I have installed here, actually, I think it's just using, yeah, so this one, git task run script command. There is an read documentation. So there is a tool to read documentation in here and search documentation. So I'm going to trust. So let's see what it says. I don't believe it adds any delay. If it does, it's minimal, would be my guess. What are you saying, Victor? Let's see here. Trust. So now it's doing a bunch of searches on our documentation on it. So I highly recommend, if you're using AWS, use our new agent toolkit for AWS. Try it out, install the skills, install the MCP server. Okay, so I was right. No Agent Core runtime does not add delay to Bedrock models to call themselves. So we have confirmed it. So when your agent calls a Bedrock model, it makes a direct Bedrock runtime API call from inside its micro VM straight to the Bedrock service endpoint. Agent Core is not in the request path, so it has no per invocation overhead to the model call. So there we go, as we expected. Those are good questions. I like that. And you can cold start. I will say, like, in general, and you may disagree with me, I feel like performance is not, well, let me rephrase this. Milliseconds is not a big deal when we're talking to frontier models and we're worrying about inference calls, because the model itself is going to take X amount of time. Now, if you are at scale and you have tens of thousands of requests, maybe that does add, those little millisecond calls does add up. But in general, like, the inference, the time it takes for a model to respond is going to be much longer than any time of your round trip from a client all the way to the model back to the client. But let me know if you disagree. Here's the dominant latency in an agent turn is almost always the model inference itself. Yeah, just like I just said. Token generation, not agent core. Oops. To reduce the model side latency, the relevant lever is Bedrock's own performance configuration with latency optimized on supported models. So perfect. Okay, so that's that. We have about 10 minutes. Does anybody have any other questions that we could jump into? If not, I could continue on through here. One thing that's been really fun is we have OpenAI models now that you can use with our Strands agents. It's really neat. Well, I guess I didn't really go over routing, or no, timeout. So let me show you the timeout example. This is just very simple. You can ask it like a system prompt. You're a helpful assistant. What are my recent orders, user ID? And then you can set up a timeout. So speaking of latency, of that round trip latency, like if you do have a call that's just like taking way too long, you can use Strands agents. And this is the same thing with the TypeScript, or excuse me, with the Python SDK, where you can stop it from running. So in this case, I put it in between a try catch. I set this timeout here. And then I say, I can then invoke it and then have a timeout in place. I don't know. Let me try this out. I haven't tried it. So I'm going to try to get in the right directory first. I guess I haven't tried it in a while, I should say. npm run, because I did write this article a little while ago. Example, and I just updated it. Example timeout. npm run example timeout. So it's now trying the model. I don't have access to your account information, order history, personal data. Okay, so it obviously didn't hit the timeout because that would have taken like 25 seconds. But I could have, if it did hit the timeout, I could have stopped it. I wonder if I like put this to like 200. Would it do anything? Okay, so it actually timed out before the values came up. So you can see it doesn't show anything on the screen here because the timeout hit. So like right here, the timeout was too long, and so you stopped it from actually the inference from occurring. Yeah. So Alex, I think that's how you pronounce your name. So you have a question in chat. Have you experienced using more LLM optimized formats like Tune instead of JSON? Just curious that they promised 30 to 60% token savings. I was listening to this Tune. I've definitely heard, I think, if I'm correctly, I'm just Googling on my other. Yes, I think it's this one, right? Let me see if I can do this the right way. Maybe move my desktop back over. And then I'll bring this over. Okay. So this is a cool package. I first heard about this from some of my YouTuber friends. So this is a way that instead of using JSON, it's a human readable serialization of JSON data for LLM prompts. It's supposed to work better than just sending JSON back and forth. So it like combines YAML indentation-based structures for nested objects with a CSV-style tabular layout. So like the average tokens for Tune is decreased versus JSON. This seems really, really interesting. I have heard of it. I have not tried it as of yet. This is really cool, though. I wonder if it's, so to speak, is the juice worth the squeeze, like to set this all up and to have everything go through this format? I'm a little worried if this is worth it. I know a lot of people are talking about token usage recently because things have changed and people are always wanting to save on tokens. So I would try this out. If you have, I wouldn't like throw this out in production right away, but if you could do like a 2-week spike and put this in and just try this out in one of your services, and then set up all those observability. If you're using Strands Agents, you can set that up. And then just take a look at the token usage, like before and after. You could probably even like vibe code an app just to like test this out and see how well it's working for you in your production app. It does look very, very interesting, but it looks like it does have some trade-offs. Like you don't want to use in deeply nested or non-uniform structures. But I guess if you're dealing with a lot of JSON data and you're passing it back and forth and LLM is using it, then you might want to try this Tune. Very interesting. That's a good question. Okay. By the way, you can take a look at all the other tips here in the agent toolkit for AWS. I'm not sure if Julian went over that last time. If he did, let me know. He might have. Let's see here. Okay, well, I feel like we only have about 5 minutes left. We might get done a few minutes early today. Let me see if there's anything else we want to look at. I think we've kind of covered most of it. Here's all, by the way, all the packages and stuff I'm using in this demo. So I would say, yeah, check out all the links that we've talked about today. Check out my blog post. Let me know if you agree or disagree. By the way, I do have a whole section on eval in here in the Postgres. We didn't get to this Postgres because technically I was just hard coding in data, but this is very useful too if you're using not just Postgres or any type of database, any kind of SQL database. You may want to be very careful about injections and things like that. No, there is an eval section here. So here's the sliding window. By the way, I didn't get into this, but you can use it. Drops the oldest messages when the windows fill. So this is a really great with context. A session manager and file storage. Here's evals. So I showed you the evals. They're a great way to check for regressions, for that inference. If anybody's trying to steal your inference, that you have the right guardrails in place. Even talk about blue-green deployments. Okay, well, I think that's going to be it for today. I just want to thank everyone who is in the chat today. There was some really awesome questions. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Mohammed, Alex. Thank you always to our producer, Jeff, who is in the background, just making sure everything works correctly. Thank you for Victor, Punchar at the beginning, Lewis, some of our internal people too, Joseph and Oliver. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining in the chat today. It's been fun. Hopefully you guys learned something. Connect with me on LinkedIn at Erik Hanchett. I accept any and all connections, or just follow me. I post pretty much every week, a couple times a week on different things I'm working on. And I just like to talk to people. Thank you. Have a great day.